Opening your phone's camera roll right now. Imagine opening your phone's camera roll right now. You see, like the usual suspects, right? A
Yeah.
blurry photo of a receipt, maybe a picture of your dog sleeping, a nice sunset you completely forgot you even took.
Yeah, just a literal chronological record of what was physically right in front of your lens.
Exactly. But then you keep scrolling, and suddenly, nestled right there between a picture of a sandwich and a screenshot of a funny text, there's a hyper-realistic, interdimensional god holding a supernova.
Right, which just completely shatters your expectation of what a photo album is supposed to be. I mean, you are no longer looking at a documentary of someone's weekend at that point. You're looking at a psychological excavation.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are opening up a digital sketchbook that tracks one human mind trying to map the massive, incomprehensible cosmos onto their own quiet suburban backyard. We are looking at a deeply fascinating, chronologically sequenced Google Photos album.
And what makes this particular album so compelling is the strict timeline. It spans exactly 1 year and 15 days. So we are tracking this daily, almost obsessive evolution from June 1st, 2025 to June 16th, 2026.
Plus, the title of this album is entirely made of emojis. There's like no text, no explanation at all, just an extraterrestrial, an eye, a pointing finger, a house, a sun, a moon, sparkles, and a painter's palette.
Which is incredibly fitting, honestly. Words would kind of fail to capture the progression we are about to explore. The emojis serve as this visual table of contents for a journey that moves from the literal to the deeply abstract.
Our goal today is to really understand that journey. We're going to explore how this artist captures what we are calling live energy from their everyday surroundings. We'll look at how they capture that raw data, how they shape it into these bizarre silhouette entities in their rough drafts, and the final copy then ran through AI to achieve, well, total cosmic abstraction.
It is a remarkable process to witness, mostly because of the transparency of it all. The artist isn't hiding their messy human attempts to figure this out, you know? They are showing us the literal mundane ingredients before they serve the surreal masterpiece.
Right, so let's start with those mundane ingredients, the foundation of this whole album. When you open those first few photos, what kind of world are we stepping into?
We are stepping into the absolute epitome of suburban normality. I mean, the first images are what we would call the raw data. We see a wide grounding shot of a classic brawl house with white columns.
Yeah.
There's a white split rail fence running across a lush green lawn. Two dogs, one white, one spotted, are just peacefully foraging in the grass.
It feels very safe, very recognizable. I mean, you can practically hear the lawnmowers in the distance, and the sunlight is streaming through the green leaves of these massive trees, creating these...
Gray sky, and suspended right in the middle of it is a singular, glowing blue and white orb. It almost looks like a concentrated ball of plasma.
It is...
To practice blending light.
I have to challenge that, though. Look at the timeline we mentioned. They obsess over this specific spot in the yard for over a year. You don't spend a year and 15 days manipulating the exact same elements for a casual software exercise.
That's a very fair point.
When you look at that glowing blue dot, it feels much more urgent. It feels like they witnessed something, that spark of live energy. And the sheer shock of that experience forced them into a year-long attempt to visually explain it.
That urgency is definitely present in the metadata. And if we assume this was a profound experience, whether they saw a literal unexplained object or just had a sudden, overwhelming feeling of connection to the universe while standing on their lawn, this raw data serves a vital psychological function.
Which is what?
It acts as an anchor. Think about the nature of a profound, unexplained experience. It makes you feel completely untethered.
Right, you question reality a bit.
Exactly. So by deliberately placing the anomalous orb right next to the mundane dogs and the white fence, the artist is grounding the abstract in the physical. They're telling themselves, this didn't happen in a dream, this didn't happen in a void, it happened here, by my trees, over my house. It anchors the mind.
They're establishing the coordinates of the awe. Like, this is exactly where the live energy hit me. But, I mean, a grainy photo of a blue dot doesn't really communicate awe to anyone else, does it? It just looks like a blurry pixel.
Not at all.
So what does the artist do next to try and communicate that feeling?
This is where we see the transition from mere documentation into active manipulation. The literal photographs stop being just records of the day. They become rough drafts.
And these rough drafts are beautifully chaotic. It looks like the digital equivalent of furiously scribbling in a notebook, trying to get a thought down before you forget it. Walk us through what the artist starts doing to these photos.
We start seeing direct collisions of reality. For instance, in an image sequenced as 21735,
Hmm.
the original photograph of the yard and the fence is still the base layer.
Okay.
But superimposed directly over the yard is this glitchy, overexposed, intensely saturated outline of a classic alien face.
The colors are completely blown out. The lines are really rough and jagged.
Yes, and as the timeline progresses, the technique becomes much more refined and philosophically interesting. The artist starts creating clean, stylized profile outlines of alien beings. We can call them silhouette
Little
entities.
wet entities.
But here is the critical choice. Instead of drawing an alien and filling it in with green or gray skin, they leave the inside of the silhouette entirely transparent.
So the outline acts like a window.
Precisely. The silhouette entities become these psychological framing devices. They cut through the canvas to reveal the original, unedited photos underneath.
It is such a brilliant visual trick. In one image, there's this massive alien head, but the entire inside of the head is filled with the white and green textures of the tree branches from their yard.
Yeah, it looks like the entity's nervous system is made of oak leaves.
Consider the function of that choice, too. The artist isn't painting an invader coming down from the stars to destroy the suburbs. The entity is literally constructed out of the local environment.
Right. There is another one that really stands out. It is a blue silhouette of the being looking incredibly contemplative. It has its chin resting on its hand, and its entire body is filled with the texture of wispy white clouds against a bright blue sky.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the entity is made of the atmosphere itself. That visual technique explains so much about the artist's internal state. They are taking the macroscopic wonder of the universe, the concept of extraterrestrial life, cosmic scale, and pulling it down into the microcosm of their backyard.
It shows us that deeply human mechanism of trying to give a recognizable shape to an overwhelming feeling.
Exactly.
You know that feeling when you look at a sunset and it is so beautiful, so huge, that you almost want to physically hold it or internalize it, but you obviously can't.
Yes, absolutely.
It seems like this artist actually found a way to render that exact urge.
That is a perfect way to describe it. They are trying to metabolize the awe. And we see that very clearly in how they handle that original glowing blue orb from the first photos.
Right, the live energy anomaly, what happens to it in these rough drafts?
The artist starts cutting that specific glowing dot out of the original sky photo and pasting it directly onto the anatomy of the silhouette entities.
I noticed that. In one image, the glowing blue dot is placed exactly on the dark gray alien's throat. Looks like a glowing throat chakra.
Yes.
And in another, the orb is placed perfectly inside the entity's eye, replacing the pupil entirely.
They were assigning anatomy to the anomaly. The unidentified orb in the sky is no longer just a weird atmospheric glitch. By placing it at the throat, it becomes the entity's voice. By placing it in the eye, it becomes the entity's vision.
And it culminates in this one incredible rough draft where the alien silhouette is overlaid onto the photo of the afternoon sun shining through the trees. The artist has drawn the alien's hands, so they are perfectly positioned to gently cradle the actual, literal sun flare from the underlying photograph.
The alien is holding the light of the yard. It is a profound act of synthesis. The sunlight in the yard isn't just weather anymore, it is an object of reverence. The artist has built a vessel, the silhouette, to safely hold the overwhelming energy they experienced.
But, sketching a feeling in a rough draft is one thing. Those glitchy outlines and transparent silhouettes do a great job of showing the intent of the artist.
Right.
But how do you communicate the sheer vibrating scale of that awe to someone who wasn't standing in that yard? How do you make the viewer feel how huge it was?
That brings us to the final evolution in the timeline. To cross that gap between personal sketch and universal scale, the artist introduces a completely new mechanism. You have these rough drafts, and the final copy then ran through AI.
The visual leap here is just staggering. We leave behind the cut and paste experimental silhouettes entirely. We are suddenly looking at hyper-detailed, three-dimensional cosmic masterpieces.
The technological upgrade is immense. The flat, transparent silhouettes are replaced by entities that look like literal divine beings.
Let's ground this in the visuals for the listener,
Yes.
because it is hard to overstate how complex these final images are. The skin of these aliens isn't just a color anymore.
No, not at all.
It is made of swirling, multicolored nebulae. You see deep purples, vibrant greens, and actual star clusters bubbling just under the surface of their skin. They have these glowing neon outlines that make them look like they are vibrating with electricity. There are ethereal blue flames flickering near their ears.
They look like they were photographed by the James Webb Space Telescope, but with the intimacy of a studio portrait.
Exactly. And the eyes. Where the rough draft just had a cutout of the blue dot, the eyes of these AI-rendered entities contain entire spinning spiral galaxies. You can literally see the illuminated arms of the Milky Way rotating inside their pupils.
It is total abstraction.
And remember that rough draft of the alien holding the sun flare from the trees?
Yes.
In the final AI render, that same entity is holding an explosive, hyper-radiant, incredibly detailed burst of golden fractal light in its hands. It isn't holding a lens flare anymore. It is holding a supernova.
The scale has been magnified by orders of magnitude.
Which brings up a massive tension, and I really want to dig into this with you. When we take our personal, very localized, raw reality, our mundane backyard, our specific trees, our little sun flares, and we run it through artificial intelligence to get these abstracted cosmic gods, what happens to the original truth of the moment?
That is the big question.
Right. Do we lose the genuine live energy of that Tuesday afternoon? Is the AI essentially overwriting the human memory with a synthetic one?
That is the essential anxiety of our current digital era. Are we replacing human experience with algorithmic generation?
Exactly.
But looking closely at the mechanism of how this specific album was created, I would argue the exact opposite is happening here. The AI is acting as an abstraction engine, but it is entirely subservient to the human's architectural scaffolding.
Explain how that works. Why isn't the AI just overriding the human?
Think of the rough drafts like the physical foundation and scaffolding of a building. The generative AI is the contractor.
Okay, I like that analogy.
The contractor shows up with 1,000,000 tons of cosmic marble, glowing neon, and deep space textures. It has limitless material. But it can only build the cosmic temple where the human has already laid the specific scaffolding in the yard.
Ah, so the AI needs the boundaries.
Exactly. Generative AI interprets pixels based on the prompt it is given, but it doesn't have an internal life. It doesn't know what it feels like to stand in a suburban yard and be struck by the majesty of the universe.
Right, just code.
Exactly. It took the earthly concept of sky that the artist provided in the silhouette, and it upgraded the texture to cosmos. It took the literal sun flare in the rough draft and upgraded the lighting physics to supernova.
But without the human.
Without the localized raw data and those messy human rough drafts, the AI would have had no direction. It wouldn't have known to place the ultimate energy at the throat chakra.
Right.
It wouldn't have known to cradle the light gently in the hands because AI doesn't understand reverence. The human artist experienced the live energy. The human artist mapped out where that energy lived in the body using the silhouette entities.
So the human provided the soul, the intent, and the architecture.
And the AI simply provided the scale. The human had a feeling that was too big for a regular photograph, and the AI finally gave them the visual vocabulary to say, this is how immense that moment felt to me on the inside.
That distinction changes everything. Because if someone just typed, make a cool galaxy alien into a prompt box, the result would be hollow.
Right.
It would just look like a generic sci-fi desktop wallpaper.
Exactly, it would lack soul.
But knowing that these specific swirling galaxy eyes are anchored directly to a grainy photo of a blue dot over a white picket fence, it makes the abstraction feel incredibly intimate.
It grounds the infinite in the deeply personal. It takes the macrocosm of the universe and folds it neatly into the microcosm of a single human's memory. And it challenges the idea that a literal photograph is the most accurate way to record a memory.
That is a wild thought. You're saying the cosmic alien might be a more accurate memory than the original photo of the yard?
Think about it. Human memory is already an abstraction. When you remember a powerful moment, you don't remember the exact physical details like a security camera.
Right, you remember how it felt.
You remember the scale of the emotion. If the emotion felt as big as a supernova, then rendering a supernova is actually closer to the emotional truth of the memory than a flat photo of a sun flare.
The emotional X-ray versus the literal photograph.
Exactly.
To pull all of this together and summarize the incredible journey we just tracked, we started with a grounded chronological look at suburban raw data. We witnessed an unexplained spark of live energy above a fence.
Yes.
We watched the artist try to digest that awe by experimenting with silhouette entities, letting the local trees and clouds fill the shape of the unknown. And finally, we saw those rough drafts used as scaffolding, and the final copy then ran through AI to achieve total abstraction, turning a backyard feeling into a cosmic portrait.
It is a complete metamorphosis of a single creative spark, taking over a year to fully understand and render.
And this brings the entire concept right back to you, the listener. I want you to think about your own digital archives. When you open your camera roll later today, don't just look at it as a chronological receipt of where you have been. Look at it as raw material.
Look for the anomalies.
Yes. What seemingly mundane photos do you have sitting in your phone right now that contain a hidden spark? Is there a weird shadow in your kitchen? A strange reflection in a train window?
Or a moment of unexpected lighting.
Exactly. A moment that holds a tiny piece of live energy. That raw data is just sitting there, waiting for you to pull it out, build a rough draft around it, and abstract it into something spectacular.
It fundamentally changes how you view the tool in your pocket. It is not just a camera, it is a collector of potential scaffolding.
The starting point for your own cosmic canvas is probably sitting in your phone right now, buried between a picture of your lunch and a blurry shot of the pavement.
And to build on that, consider what this means for our future relationship with these technologies. We just spent that deep dive analyzing how a human can use AI to transform a grounded suburban memory into a portrait of the cosmos.
Yeah.
As we continue to integrate these massive abstraction engines into our creative lives and into how we document our days, it leaves us with a critical question to ponder.
What is that?
We have to ask ourselves, are we using these new tools to simply alter the aesthetic of our art? Or are we fundamentally changing the way we remember our own pasts? As the tools to visualize our inner lives become more powerful, the line between what physically happened and how it felt to experience it is going to disappear entirely.
Are we recording the facts of the day, or are we rendering the scale of the awe?
When the literal X-ray of reality is replaced by the emotional abstraction of a galaxy, we have to decide which one is the truer memory.